Charleston County Sheriff Kristin Graziano has been the sheriff of the county for the past 4 years. She tells me what she's working on and what she wants to accomplish next for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Charleston County Sheriff Kristin Graziano, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin. Great to be back.
I know that obviously there's a lot going on. You just mentioned some of the things that are occurring right now within the Charleston County Sheriff's Office. So tell me, what's new, what's now with the Charleston County Sheriff's Office?
So, Quintin, it's been an incredibly busy 3.5, almost 4 years here at the Sheriff's Office, specifically not only internally at the Sheriff's Office, but also externally and at our detention center. As you are aware, we've launched day one some education initiatives. A lot of people question whether or not we could be successful, but today we are the most successful detention center in the entire state when it comes to the education initiatives on the juvenile side as well as the adult. So we're doing things using continuity of care concepts and restorative practices concepts, and it's making a tremendous impact on our community.
Now, okay, obviously you've been successful on some of those parts when it comes to the detention center, but let me break it down. How many juveniles do you have right now versus adults there?
So today we have 38 juveniles, and when I first came in, we had 54, 55, something like that, close to 60. And when I came in the door, school was optional. Today, for the juveniles, school is not optional. They must attend. And every single student, Quintin, in our facility is on grade level or accelerated. The problem that we've had when I came in is because school was optional. Kids would fall behind in their schoolwork. So there was really no catalyst. There was nothing to keep them from reoffending or even going to school, because when you fall behind like that, it's almost impossible to catch up unless you had some credit recovery accelerated services. Not all schools have that, some do, but you have to be motivated. You have to be motivated to do it. So just Friday, we graduated our second barbering class. We had 5 graduates in our barbering class on Friday, and we had 6 at the one prior to that. So we're not only doing education, we're doing vocation, trade, and job skill training. So it's everybody that participates in any of these, whether it's the adults or juveniles, must complete a 12-week cognitive behavioral therapy class. So they learn how to rethink what got them there in the first place, change their behavior, and then really focus on the things that will lift them out of the situation that they're in. On the adult side, Quintin, we've had astounding success. We were recognized by the Barbara Bush Foundation on the Senate floor in D.C. For our efforts to reduce adult illiteracy in an incarcerated setting. Some people don't know, but the illiteracy has a $3.2 trillion impact on our GDC every year, annually. And the fact that we are able to do that, reduce that, and offer education, vocation, training, and opportunities at zero cost to your taxpayer dollar, zero taxpayer dollar. We did this through our partnerships. And because of that, we've been extremely successful. We are the first detention center in the entire state to ever graduate college graduates. We got to have our second cohort, second graduation coming up in December. Today, some of my College Charleston students that are here, the scholar residents here, are doing a presentation as we speak about a Brighton Cove co-op that they have they've envisioned and are making a reality. They're trying to raise about $9 million to make that happen. And we have private donations and grants that have already committed to this. So this is not just what we're doing here. It's when they leave incarceration and come back into the community, what they are doing to pay it forward. And it's having a profound impact.
You talk about obviously the education component of the detention center, which is obviously successful from what you just told me. But then there's the administration part, Sheriff. Of course, over your past time as sheriff, there have been at least 17 deaths reported at the Charleston County Detention Center.
Not 17, 13.
13.
So
But that's still high, Sheriff. That's
why
still
is that?
high. That's
All
still
right,
high.
so Quintin, let's put everything in perspective. You want to go back to talk about reality, and the reality is we are the largest detention center in the state, the largest mental health provider in the state, and we have people come into our care who are extremely sick. We have gotten to the point where we need to offer hospice services, and we just can't because it won't allow us. The laws won't allow us to do that because you're bringing essentially narcotics into a detention center. If you think about it, that's what it is. So we need those services. The deaths that you're speaking of are the majority of natural causes. You know, I don't know anybody that can play God and say we can keep that from happening. When you get people coming in here that are chronically ill, suffering from mental health, their age has a part. Sometimes they're elderly, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're just very sick, untreated, diagnosed mental illness, or a combination of all that, and many of them homeless with lack of access to services. These are the people we treat day in and day out. Let's talk about the lives we save every day, Quintin. Let's talk about the Narcan that we administer when people walk in the door because they're actively overdosing when they're brought in.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the reality of what we're seeing on the street. This jail, this detention center is a microcosm of what our community is. So, you know, this is happening all throughout the community. It's happening in hospitals. And the reality is we're a detention center. We're not a mental health provider. We're not a substance use disorder center. We don't treat substance use disorder. And we are a detention center. We're not a homeless facility. We're a detention center. But we're all of that because of the problems that haven't been addressed on a community-based level that we need to address. So we are, in effect, the dumping ground for everybody else because nobody is stepping up to do what needs to be done.
Well, let me ask you this. What community-based solutions would actually help prevent all of these deaths from happening at the detention center?
Well, having access and opportunity, access to services that people need, particularly those that are suffering from substance use disorder, having access to those services, having the ability to get to those services and unencumbered, and having the support for housing, medical, transportation, job skill training, the things that people need to lift them out of poverty. We have to attack the root causes. Think about that. You know, we get people at their worst, and we have to be at our best. That is absolutely a fact. But we're not. Detention centers are set up to stabilize, not treat. Big difference. Big difference. So bringing all that, bringing the ability to have all that under one roof is a solution, and a solution is a model similar to what is done in Houston. And I'm not saying the Houston model will work here, but having a centralized location that is accessible and affordable for people to go to have access to the services they need, to get the help they need throughout the community. And another solution, we need to deal with this homeless issue, the unsheltered and unhoused population. We get a lot of overdoses. You don't hear about it. We get a lot of overdoses in those communities, and people die. And we have to see that, and we have to deal with it. Many of those folks end up in our care. Many of them, I've got 200 of them right now since the summer. We have a 20% increase in the population of homeless. We're treating those folks, but we don't have the essential services, Quintin. They need mental health care. They need substance use disorder care. They need skill-based training. They need vocational training. They need hope, hope for a future that they can thrive. And we try to do that here, and we're doing our best, but this is a community issue. It's not a detention center issue.
You say it's a community issue, but isn't it a law enforcement issue?
Why would it be a law enforcement issue? We're the ones that get caught. It becomes our problem, right? So let me tell you what we're doing. Okay, it becomes our problem because our our law enforcement is seeing so much death. And because our law enforcement is seeing so many overdoses, we created a position that go out into the community to educate the community on this very thing. So we're meeting people where they are. We educate them and we put that responsibility back on the community to care for their loved ones so they don't become a coroner's case. That's one thing, okay? This is symptomatic of what is happening in our community. Anyone that tells you overdoses are coming down and deaths are not happening due to opioid, the crisis with fentanyl, needs to get their head out of the sand. We know that the numbers are high. We know that there's a need that has to be met, and we are filling those gaps. I hired a director of mental health. I took a needed position within the agency, and we hired a director of mental health, a conduit for people that leave incarceration that are in the treatment courts, the veterans courts, the mental health courts, those courts that offer treatment services and follow-up. I hired somebody to follow them in the community to make sure they stay on track. That's not our job, Quintin, but we have to fill in those gaps. And while it may not be our responsibility to do that, it's a community responsibility. We're doing what we can to keep people out of the jail.
Well, let me ask you this. What more administrative gaps do you need to close to make sure that the detention center is successful and we don't have any more deaths?
And Quintin, we're never going to stop having deaths when you have sick people coming into a facility. We're no different. We're no different than any other detention center around the country. We're all having these issues. We do the very, very best we can to care for folks that are in our custody. We're not killing them. I resent the fact that you're even insinuating that we're killing them. We're caring for these.
No, not
well,
me.
that's what it sounds like, Quintin.
No,
so we're not killing these folks. We're caring for them, but they're very, very sick. So, first, acknowledge that there's a problem.
Is there a problem?
Community. And I think our mayor downtown is finally acknowledging that there's a homeless problem, and they're acknowledging that we need to have solutions. Solutions are not shelters. It's not transitional. Solutions are permanent. Okay, we can't be transactional and say, oh, we're going to do this 1 minute, and the next we're not going to offer it to everybody that needs it because we don't have the ability to do that. Doing something is at least doing something, Quintin. It's at least moving in the direction that we need to go to keep our community safe. And by the way, when I talk about community safety, crime is down over 16% in the last 3 years. Violent crime is down. Okay, so let's talk about the effects that this is having, the work that we're doing in the community and paying attention to the community is having on our community.
What type of violent crimes are actually down?
Murder, rape, robbery, and violent assaults. And we're going to talk about this because it was published that Charleston County had 70 homicides last year. That is not true. Charleston County had 6. One of those was the incident that we had on Johns Island. I think you recall where our canine got shot. That was that person was killed by law enforcement. That's one of them. The other 5 were homicides in our county. We had a reporting error. It's in our software. We still have not fixed it. SLED is aware of it. They've changed the numbers. We are actually less than Richland County, Greenville, and all those counties that are equal population to us. So much less, about half of what they're seeing.
So how long has the system error been in place?
Well, we found an error from last year too. It's not an error that we can fix. It's a software error. We found it. We found it several weeks ago. And we reported it, but we still cannot get it corrected because even when we make the corrections, it auto-populates and sends. And it's in the hardware software itself. Yeah, right. And so SLED had to go back and manually change it. We haven't published it yet because we're waiting for. We're trying to get it fixed. But our vendor in this very antiquated software that we're using is in California, and it's an actual change in their programming. So it'll probably cost us some money. I say we junk the system because it's old and it doesn't work, and we will get that fixed. But we'll send those numbers out, the corrected numbers. I worked with SLED last week to get that taken care of. So my point is this, you can look at all the data and you can twist it and turn it any way you want to make it look like benefit your narrative. Okay. But the fact of the matter is this is undeniable. Crime is down. Homicides are down. Not just Charleston County, Charleston City, and in North Charleston. And it has been this trend across the country and across Charleston. We're actually doing a little bit better than the national average.
Where are you doing better?
In our stats coming down. So the trends across the nation for violent crime are coming down, due in part of, they were at their height during COVID. If you think about it, 2019, 2020, when folks weren't working, that's when violent crime was really at it. It was high. It was very high. And as people go back to work and as police go back to work and start making arrests and doing their jobs, that crime is coming down. And we've seen that trend nationally.
Now, in 2023, Charleston County deputies made how many arrests?
Arrest for what?
Violent crimes.
Quintin, I can't tell you how many arrests, but why don't you come to the sheriff's office and pull up the data? Look, I can't tell you how many we've made. I know how many are reported.
Well, how many have been reported? You tell me that, man.
I'm not sure what you're asking. I don't understand what you're asking, Quintin. How many arrests have we made on violent crime?
How many
a lot of arrests, Quintin.
How many deputies you have right now on your force? Let me ask you that then.
So we are at about 300.
All right. So
deputies.
Yeah. So what I'm asking is, in 2023, we're going back to last year now, Charleston County deputies made how many arrests for crimes?
I'm happy to pull that data for you. Thousands. There's absolutely no way for me to know how many arrests were made and how many. I can find out how many charges were made.
Well, let me ask you this then. What were the top 10 charges in Charleston County in 2023?
The top 10 really focused around drugs. I mean, drugs and weapons. We invested a lot of resources into our violent crimes task force. And so when we do that and we make arrests, we publicize those arrests because those are the most violent criminals among us. And just last week, we engaged in an Operation North Star with our marshals. I think we made 133 in Charleston County. 133 arrests over that 3-month period of just searching for violent criminals. It depends on what you're looking for, Quintin. They make arrests every single day. I mean, it just depends on what you're asking, and the data is available.
Well, let me ask you this. You talked about those violent offenders. How many more violent offenders how many more violent offenders do your deputies have to pick up off the streets here in Charleston County?
We want all of them, Quintin. We gotta determine who commits the crime first, right? We can't just go put handcuffs on people if we don't have, probable cause or a warrant.
Right.
So we want all of them. Our warrants team does an exceptional job hunting people down when we know where we can find them, when we get warrants for them. We rely, a lot of our information comes from our community to let us know where people are. So yeah, we'd love to have all of them. The goal is to get them here.
Right.
It's not like we lack I have 1,200 people in this detention center right now. It's not like we have a lack of people. We have them. They're staying here longer because we're not getting them into trial. They're not getting their day in court, and our victims are not being heard. So once we get through that, once they are able to push these cases through the court system and people get adjudicated, it would move people out. We have room. It's not like we don't have room. We have plenty of space. You get something you want to tell me? If you know where somebody is and we got warrants for them, we'll go get them.
Well, then I'll jump on your pay. I'll jump on your payroll and we can take it from there. But let me ask you, how many backlog cases are there, and are they being reported to you all on a daily basis?
Yeah, well, not a daily basis. Through the work on CJCC, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, they track what was called. There's several things they track. The the people that have been in jail the longest, and the repeat offenders that come. We call them familiar faces concept, where people come in and out. So a lot of those are lower level crimes, and they're in and out of the detention center. Usually, I can tell you stories about how people come here and probably shouldn't be here, that should be in a hospital. But I think tracking them and we do the best we can. Look, again, it's not our job to tell somebody to move this case through a court system.
Right.
But we found ourselves in a position lobbying and advocating to move cases so people can be adjudicated and either have their day in court, so our victims can have their day in court, and that these people that have committed these violent crimes move on, and they won't be serving their time here. They'll move on into a prison setting. So we have you can pick through cases. I've got people that have been here for 4 years, still waiting. I've got people who've been here several years waiting for their cases to be heard. And these are violent. I mean, they're charged with violent crimes, so murder, mostly murder. And I know it takes time to build cases, but you got probable cause. You've got enough to have the arrest, to make the arrest, and then you've got to actually move these cases through the court system. So it varies. Somebody asked me the average stay of somebody in the detention center. And if you'd asked me a couple months ago, I would have said 188 days. And I think it's actually higher now, but it varies day to day. These are pre-adjudicated. Remember that. These are pre-adjudicated. These are folks that have been accused but not convicted.
Right.
We do have some that are serving their time because a judge has said serve their time here. But 90 days to 6 months maybe, and also family court.
Oh yes.
Some family court, they would serve their time here. They wouldn't say go to a prison to do that.
Wow. But going back to that, do you all have enough resources and financial resources to keep operating like this?
We don't have a choice. So there's been a lot of talk about the not enough people to work in the detention center, staff shortages.
Right.
The fact of the matter is, when I came in the door, we had almost 150 openings, 150, Quintin, and that it doesn't sound like a lot. And also the population was a little lower too, because it was during COVID, where a lot of people got out because of COVID.
Right.
Arrests started happening, cases were being made, and our population increased. And as our population increased, it put an incredible strain on the staff that was here. We have increased staffing, Quintin, by 45% in 3 years. 45%. It's unheard of. And we've done it because our staff has come up with solutions. Our recruitment and retention has come up with solutions. And then I fought to get them more money. Because if you're going to hire professionals, you need to pay them for the professionals that they are. And we were one of the lowest paid detention centers in the state. Today, we're one of the highest. We have our lowest number of openings now. We're right at 70, get ready to break the 60s. So we're right at 70, 71 as of Friday. And so we've closed the gap significantly. Again, our population is higher too. So it helps, but my goal is to not have mandatory overtime. Although my staff would tell you that's not cool because they like the money. But my goal would be to not have to have that. Have it be optional. And I think it's a better use of our money if we, you want your people to be there at their very best when they come to work.
Sure.
And it's hard to do that when they're working so much. But although some of them are workaholics and they prefer it.
Now, let me ask you this. How many employees do you have right now in the detention center that are actually overtime employees?
Today? Every day is different. So okay. I'd have to look. I don't know that I have any today on day shift. Sometimes a lot of that's at night. Sure. But it varies. It varies on the shift. Folks, we offer it we offer it to people,
Yeah.
and sometimes they take it, sometimes they don't. But it could be anywhere from 6 to 8 to 15. It just depends.
And I wanted to talk to you, obviously, about, for lack of a better word, career building when it comes to hiring many of these people.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: as far as how many full-time employees do you actually have within your agency, excluding the detention center?
So I'm slated for about 900, and we don't have that. So you take in I have about maybe 10 openings on the law side. So we're almost full on that side.
Okay.
And we're breaching 60. So 60, the 60 mark, in the 60s, I say 60 mark. 69 is kind of the breaching that mark. So you get about 80 total. I think all of our positions, we have civilian positions as well. I have an
Sure.
army of civilians. I don't have very many civilian positions. What we've been doing is, pulling from vacancies and putting people where we need them and creating positions to kind of, boost that. But it just depends.
How many positions that you have to create because of the gap of hiring those folks? I guess.
Well, so the openings I told you are the openings we have. That's it.
Yes.
Bottom line is I'm still at 1985 staffing for the law side.
Wow.
I need more bodies. I
Right.
need more allocated bodies. But I'm not even going to ask for it until we're full. Until we get, and we will be full in a couple months.
Yes.
And so I will be, asking for more positions because I need to put more patrols in the rural areas, more visible in the rural areas.
Where exactly in those rural areas do you need more deputies now?
I would say east, McClellanville,
Oh, yes.
Ondal,
Yes.
are some. Hollywood, Ravenel,
Sure.
Megget,
Sure.
and Edisto. So
Sure.
those are the areas that they're not suffering. We've done some things strategically with the bodies that we had to reallocate, reorganize, I guess you could say, zones of patrol.
Yeah.
So we've made them smaller so that there's more of a presence, and deputies stay more centralized to their zone or their district.
Sure.
We did that for Kiowa, Seabrook, and Johns Island.
Sure.
The problem is, I could have, again, I'm still at 1985
Right.
staffing, so keeping them in those smaller areas to serve and more visible in those areas is ideally what we would want. We would want to get more bodies instead of having one, have two
Right.
in those areas, or three.
Okay.
3 is a gift.
Yes, ma'am. Well, let me ask you this. You've been interviewed by me for so many years now, Quintin. But as you know, and you just mentioned this, the population is growing in Charleston. So how does the
Yeah.
Charleston County Sheriff's Office grow with that smart growth?
Yeah, great question, Quentin. And like I said, we're at 1985 staffing right now, and we need to. Well, first of all, we need to fill our openings. We need to fill those openings. And as we fill those openings, we need to ask County Council to give us additional openings or additional bodies, full-time positions to start now putting additional folks in the rural areas that we patrol. The other thing I'll tell you is what we've been very good at. Is using our vision of where we need to go and how we get there. Using innovation and technology to help us drive solutions, which is what we're doing. We've done a great job doing that, and really relying on our partnerships in the community to tell us what we need, what they need, so that we can make sure that we address those needs. We have a really cool program here within each community. We have community liaisons appointed in every single community. And what that does is gives those particular communities, the rural areas, a direct phone number and person, their own basically chief of police in that area to really stay on top of the issues that those communities face, to get those when they need help, get it back to us so we can figure out how to problem solve and address those needs. And it's been phenomenal. It's really opened up our communications with the rural areas, which has been great. And we're and our community engagement's up 400% as a result of it. So it's stuff we know that are working, but we've got to use our brains. We got to rethink public safety, reimagine it, I think is the best word to use for that. and reimagine how we interact with the community and how they see us, and what can we do to work together to solve problems. And that's what we've been doing.
Well, I'm running out of time, and I want to get to that big issue next. But let me ask you this. Okay, so how many community liaisons do you have in the rural areas now?
So every community has them. If you look at McClellanville, Meggett, Hollywood,
Sure.
Ravenel, Edisto, Soligree, James
Oh, yes,
Island.
sure.
So all these, they all have them. I think we have 14 right now. We'll probably add to that. What I have said to the community liaisons is when we go to community meetings, because I go to community meetings probably twice a week. I try to go to 2 community meetings, and to not just talk with those communities, but to listen to what they are talking about and see how we can help. But as we see other areas that need them, or as they request to have a liaison, we will make that accessible. I think that's a really good positive interaction that we can have with the community that really brings us into what they do, and it brings them into what we do. And the other thing I'll tell you is we're getting ready to graduate our 3rd Citizens Academy. So a lot of these folks in these communities have participated in our Citizens Academy, and they understand now what we do and how we do it. And they've made friendships and forged partnerships within the sheriff's office. So it's really just kind of brought them back into what we do, and that's been pretty incredible.
I have 4 minutes left, so I want to get this in. Let me talk to you about the big issue. I watched the press conference online. You responded and you gave some information about it. But let me take you to Channel 5. It says the Charleston County Sheriff answers Nancy Mace's claims of improperly releasing detainees. Sheriff released a statement in response to Mace's letter. Of course, Charleston County Sheriff Kristin Graziano released a statement Tuesday afternoon refuting claims by Nancy Mace that accused the sheriff of, quote, systematically dismantling immigration enforcement, unquote, in the county. She says, under your leadership, the Charleston County Sheriff's Office has refused to provide the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement with adequate hold time to assume custody of illegal aliens, and refused to provide ICE with notification that you've had illegal aliens in custody with prior to their release. As we sit here right now, Sheriff, how many of these particular people do you have in your custody?
So first of all, Quintin, I stand by my remarks about somebody being full of crap, because they are. And it's not only that, it's categorically false. And I'll call a liar when I see one. I don't care who they are. You're not going to put targets on the backs of our law enforcement and our community because you don't understand the law. It's reckless and it's foolish. I'm not going to give props to anybody. I'm not going to give attention to this matter anymore, but I will say this. That is all a lie. And there's not a sheriff in this country that can systematically dismantle immigration. It is a federal issue. We are constitutional officers of this state. None of us have the authority or the ability to do what she says we're doing. None.
And matter of
Not
fact,
one.
and matter of fact, you said this is a federal issue, as you just mentioned, and we did not and have never released a detainee without a judge's order. So how many judge's orders have you received over the past couple of years when it comes to these types of detainees?
I have 13 of those folks in my custody right now that are on judge's orders. I can't tell you what happened before I came in, but I can tell you this. Charleston and South Carolina is not a border state. Never has been, never will be. To create one by importing immigrants from other states into Charleston County and into our state is wrong. We become a border state when that happens. And why it's wrong is you cannot expect a federal issue to be on the taxpayers' backs of Charleston County and other counties in this state. It is a federal issue. It is wrong. And it's for us to enforce a federal issue. We have no authority to do that. And for us to be blamed for it is reckless. And furthermore, we arrest people and put them in jail. That is our job. We hold them. We cannot release anybody, Quintin, anybody without a judge's order. Doesn't matter if they're undocumented or not. We can't release anybody. So ask me how many people I've released with a judge's order. All of them, because I have to have a judge's order to release people.
Now, let me ask you this quickly. Okay, how many of those people who are, I guess, illegal immigrants or whatever, what are those charges that they've been arrested for?
Quintin, I have no idea. You give me an example of somebody I've arrested and that we've released on a judge's order, and I'll tell you what it's public record.
Yeah, okay.
Find out who these people are that they're talking about and look it up. Look it
Now,
up.
look it up. How much money did you all get from ICE, or as far as holding these particular people?
So we only get $65 a day per person. It costs $132 a day. The ones that I'm holding, I understand it's taxpayers are still paying for it, the majority of half of them, roughly half. I understand that. But the charges dictate a judge's order to keep them here. And because of their charges, which are probably violent crimes, and I'm guessing they're violent crimes or crimes that, if they're out, would present a danger to the community, that's why they're here. And I'm not letting them go until a judge tells me they're letting go. And the ones I'm holding, I believe, are still, and I don't know if all of them are, they're awaiting their criminal trial. Okay. So there's still a criminal element to that before a deportation would even happen. And that criminal trial has to happen because they could be redirected into a prison.